Hey all, I wanted to discuss a couple of the most popular pads on the market today. The Nemo Tensor series and the Thermarest X-Therm, X-Lite series, and the newly released, not much is out there on it yet, the Nemo Tensor Alpine. All of these have their benefits and their use cases. Which one's the best one for you? I don't know, but hopefully this video gives you a little bit of information that you can utilize to base your decisions off of, whether you just buy one pad or buy multiple. So let's just say, bottom line up front, that there are trade-offs with either one. For the warmest and the lightest pads, hands down, right now the Nemo, or the Thermarest X-Lite, this is the women's, I believe comes in, I've got the stats right here. The women's X-Lite comes in at an R value of 5.4. Very, very warm. Very nice. Whereas the Tensor underneath here, which is the 25 wide, which is the 25 inches wide, which is the wide regular length, only comes in at 3.5. And I can tell you from utilizing these that the Tensor itself, the insulated, and this is the older version, but I don't know that any much changed. I don't personally like below 40 degrees at all. Anything below 40 degrees, and I'm moving to something substantially warmer. Since this is the old one, both of these do have the twist valves. Nemo has updated that with the flat valve, which we'll take a closer look at in just a moment. Now, if we were just comparing the two of these, since these are not considered the winter weight pads, whereas these are both considered by their manufacturers as winter weight or winter warmth pads, the Thermarest women's is going to come in very nicely at like 5.6, whereas this 3.5 is only going to be good down to my opinion, about 40 degrees. But the trade-off there, in my opinion, and you can get the Nemo, before I say this, you can get the Nemo in the regular mummy size so that it's closer to this size, and you can also get it in the short. They do offer the Tensor in a lot of different sizes, but the material on the Thermarest is a 30D versus the 20D on the Nemo. So it's a tougher material, it's lighter, but as you can hear, it's crinkly. It's very noisy, and these are all blown up max capacity, which is the way I like to sleep on them. I know a lot of people like to let the air out a little bit, but I like to sleep on them full capacity, and that's how you get the full R value out of these. So the X-Lite is very crinkly, whereas the Nemo is not very crinkly at all. As well, the baffling on the Nemo series utilize the space baffling, and this is the new Alpine, Tensor Alpine, with the it's got an R value of 4.8. This one comes in right at 17 ounces with the new flat valve. These are very quiet to sleep on. There's not much noise at all, and one of the benefits over the, I'll show you the difference here. Maybe this will show up on camera, but one of the bigger differences this space baffling does provide you. Nemo is going to be a lower R value. It's going to be quieter, but one of the things this space baffling does for you is if you start pushing down on one area or the other, and it may not show up very well on camera here, but it doesn't inflate or deflate anywhere else in the pad. So the movements of air are rather isolated, so you don't feel the movements pushing against your back. Versus the Thermarest X-Lite, if you push down on your legs, from usage, if I move my legs around, and I can feel it in my hand right now, I can feel the pad inflating in the middle, which can be pretty annoying. So the movement of air inside of the Thermarest X-Lite is very different from what it is inside of the Nemo. Also, these are both supposedly, I think These are 2.5 inches thick. Yeah, 2.5, and the Nemo Tensor down there is 3. So the Alpine is 3 inches thick, and the Alpine is 3 inches thick versus the X-Lite is 2.5. And I don't know if you can really visually tell any difference in the two. Now the big denominator in these is the X-Therm. For winter weight use, this is my go-to pad. I like the 25-inch wide. I've cut it down so that it's just a little more easier to move around and for my height. But I like the 25-inch wide. This has an R value of 6.9. You can also get in a mummy size as well. You can get in a large mummy and then cut the mummy down if you wanted to save a few ounces and get this down to 17 ounces for an R 6.9 pad. Now the trade-offs with that are that the X-Therm does have a little crinkle. It's not as bad as the X-Lite by any stretch. And they also still utilize these old twist valves. Now this is the older one. The newer one has the wing nut on it. So it's pretty fiddly. On the fiddly factor, the difference between these two are very high. The Neo Air from Thermarests, whether you get the X-Therm or the X-Lite, both use a twist lock valve. And so inflating and deflating these are very tedious little processes. Now they both come with some pump sacks, and we grab those. Here's the Nemo's new Vortex pump sack. Works really well. You can pump up the Nemo in just a matter of a couple moments with 3 of these pumped into the bag. The way that Thermarest did these bags is they used this little clear piece and you stuck it on there. It never would go on there very well, and it takes a dozen of these bags to try and fill this thing up. Or you can get the little air inflator. That's what I will use sometimes. I know that this bag has been updated, which is nice, and Bungsy did a review on the new wing nut valve as well as the pump sack. He didn't say he liked it, and so I would think that Nemo in the fiddly factor contest comes out a clear winner, because the new valve is not only the inflation, it doubles as a dump valve. A dump valve is something that none of the Thermarest products currently have, but desperately should have, so that when you do deflate them, you could just dump the air out. Now this one's going to take a few minutes to deflate out. You have to squeeze them and try and get the air out of them. It's a real pain in the butt, and then rolling them up's a pain. Now I'll show you how fast it is to do the Nemo products really quick, but before I do that, since we're talking about stuff sacks, my favorite pump sack to use is the X-Ped Schnozzle. This, I believe, is I don't know what size this is. This is the medium pump bag. It just says medium, so I think it's 20 liter. Maybe it's 40, I don't know. But you can simply blow into it, and it will blow up either one of these with a little bit of an attachment. I put a piece of clear tubing so that the X-Ped bag will attach to the nozzles on the Thermarests or on the Nemos. So you can see it just attaches like that. And on a smaller pad like the X-Lite, you only have to do like 2 of these bags and you're done. It's filled. And then the pump sack also functions as a waterproof stuff sack in your pack. You can throw your clothes in here, your quilt, and then squeeze the air out of it, shut the valve, and you've got a vacuum sealed bag inside of your pump sack. Now when it comes to the fiddly factors of inflation and deflation, Nemo has it down, and Thermarest could stand to take a lesson from the way that other manufacturers such as Sea Summit, X-Ped, Big Agnes, and Nemo have done their valves. Why Thermarest hasn't updated their valves to have a flat valve with an inflation and a deflation part to it, I do not know, because deflating these is ridiculously easy. Boom. That's it. it is deflated, you can start rolling it up. There's no trying to force the air out. It's just ridiculously easy. You could throw it in your pack just like that. Boom. But these X lights and the X therms have to be treated a lot differently. You really have to force the air out. You can see even though I've had it open, it's still not deflated. There's still 70% of the air in the pad. So it becomes a big pain in the butt when it comes time to inflate and deflate these pads. And so Thermarest needs to update their valve system, something fierce. If they did that, if they updated the valve system to something flat, got away from this twisty, fiddly little lock, and put a dump valve so it made it easy to inflate and deflate their pads, they would have a pretty clear winner on their hands. Now their pads are the most popular, and I guess based off of sales, because they're the lightest for their warmth value, which at the end of the day may be the most important thing. But if you're warm enough in the temperatures that you're at, the Nemo Alpine or the Nemo Tensor may be enough for you, and you may enjoy sleeping on something that's quieter, more supportive. The Nemo products just don't bounce around. They're quieter, they're easier to inflate and deflate. Even on the older bottles that have the twist-lock valve, they do also have a dump valve on them so that you can deflate them without any problem whatsoever. And then they're just a loose bag of nuggets. They inflate and deflate so easy, whereas the X-Lite products do not. So which one's the best one for you? Well, hands down, if you're going to be in temperatures that are below freezing, my opinion is go with an X-Therm, especially if you're a cold person, because for 17 ounces you can get a R6.9 pad in a mummy. I think you can get it in the wide and just cut it a little shorter and you'd be right at 17 ounces for an R6.9, which is an amazing amount of warmth. You can really feel the heat coming off of this. If you're somewhere in between being a very cold sleeper and the temperatures you're going to be at are potentially in the 30s, then it is possible that the Nemo Alpine may work out in your favor. This mummy size weighs 17 ounces. It comes with the stuff sack, the pump sack. The pump sack's another couple ounces, but it's got an easier to inflate and deflate system. You can see it's already just flat as a board. It's really easy to pack up. It's super quiet, and I think one of the reasons that the Alpine is heavier with a lower R value, even though it supposedly has 3 layers of aluminized foil in here for the warmth, which is similar to the women's NeoAir X-Lite underneath it here and the X-Therm, is that there is a layer of foam or padding on the top. And I'll bring the camera in closer to take a look at that. And I believe that that is adding a couple ounces of weight, but that is what is probably providing the level of noise reduction that you get from the Nemo products versus the Thermarest X-Therm and X-Lite products. They do not seem to have that layer. You can't see it or hear it, but you can sure hear that metallized layer, which is right underneath the surface. You can tell just by touching it, you're moving it, and there's nothing between you and it. Whereas on the Nemo, you can see the pad in the top layer. So which one's right for you? I think probably for the weight versus for warmth, the Thermarest wins out, hands down, weight versus warmth. This little pad comes in at 12 ounces. I can sleep on this fine, but I really love having a 25-inch wide so my elbows aren't falling off. So if you're not ounce counting, you can jump up to the X-Therm in the mummy in the large version and then just cut it down, and you'll be a 5-ounce bump from this, but you'll get the 25 inches wide, and you'll also get an extra R value of 1.5 over and above the 5.6 that the women's is already rated at. So you'll have the super warm system to go with. If comfort is more of your priority, and you're not a very cold sleeper, then the Nemo Alpine is probably a great choice. It's super comfortable. I took this this past weekend down to 18 degrees. I got a little chilly by 5 o'clock in the morning. I could feel some coldness coming through the pad, which is something I've not experienced with the X-Therm. The X-Therm is a 6.9, so it does have a higher resistance value. And then I've also been very comfortable with the Nemo Alpine in the upper 20s, low 30s, no problem whatsoever. So it's a little disappointing that the Nemo Alpine is rated as a winter. I think it needs a little help to be rated to take it below that, although I know there are accounts of people that do. So which one's right for you? I don't know. If comfort's the priority, then Nemo would be the way to go. But if you're a cold sleeper, you'll need to gauge whether or not that works for you or not. So that's it. If you have any questions about these, hit me up in the comments down below. I'll leave links to everything that I talked about down below. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps you out in your search for the best pad for you.